Take risks. Believe in yourself. Enjoy your life. You are amazing. Don't give up. Dream big. Everything is going to be alright. Never give up. Try again. Smile. And most importantly, be yourself. With this beautiful saying, a very good morning to all my dear students. I hope you all are in good health. I, Shreya Jadhav, welcome you all to my e-learning channel. And today we are going to learn English Grade 12, Chapter 2, The Lost Spring. Over here we have two stories. The first one is Sometimes I Find a Rupee in the Garbage. And the second story is I Want to Drive a Car. And the writer for both the stories is Anees Chung. So let us know something about the author. Anees Chung, born on 1944, is an Indian author, journalist and columnist for newspaper in India and abroad. Anees was born in Rakola and spent her childhood and adolescence in Hyderabad. She received her education in Hyderabad and in United States of America. Her parents were both writers. Anees began her career as a writer in India. Setting. The following stories is an excerpt from her book titled Lost Spring and the stories of stolen childhood. Here, the writer Anees Chung analyzes the grinding poverty and traditions which condemn these children to a life of exploitation. Characters. As this is a short story, over here we have limited characters. We will be having 2, 3 or 4 characters, not more than that, because this is a short story. So over here we have 2 characters. The first one is the writer herself and the second one is Sahib-e-Alam. So now, dear students, over here we will go through introduction for answers. Now whenever you are writing down your exams or your test, introduction is one of the important thing which you are supposed to write because it presents your answer really well. So the introduction would be prose name Lost Spring, author's name Anees Chung, genre short story, summary. Here we can see the grinding poverty and tradition which condemn these children to a life of exploitation. So, dear students, this is all for the introduction. Now we will go through the reading and explanation of the chapter, and today we are going to do the first story, and that is Sometimes I Find a Rupee in the Garbage. So let us take the reading and the explanation of the unit. So you can see over here the title is given Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood. Over here, spring indicates childhood. It indicates poverty. It indicates how these poor children are deprived from their adolescent age, and all of a sudden they are under a great responsibility of taking care of their family. So, over here, when we start the reading, why do you do this? I asked Sahib, whom I encounter every morning scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. Sahib left his home long ago, set amidst the green fields of Dhaka. His home is not even a distinct memory. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes. His mother tells him that's why they left looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. I have nothing else to do, he mutters, looking away. Go to school, I said, glibly, realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound. So, over here in the introduction, you can see that the writer herself, Anis Jung, is encountering and she is talking to Sahib-e Alam. Yes, Sahib-e Alam is an adolescent boy, and he every morning he is scrounging, means he is searching out gold from the garbage. He is a rag picker. Yes, so he is searching a type of gold from the garbage dumps in his neighborhood area. And Sahib has left his home long time ago. He left his home from Dhaka and he is living in the city just now. And his parents also left the village area and they have come for a good future in the city. And at that time, the boy, this Sahib, is answering and he is telling that he has nothing else to do. So it is not his choice that he wants to rag pick or he wants to collect garbage, but as he is having nothing else to do, he is not having any alternative or choices, he is rag picking. So very glibly, means very foolishly, the writer is telling that you should go to school. Yes, but then the writer herself realized that her advice was hollow, means it was useless for them. Why? Because if they were having sufficient amount of money, then obviously they would be going for the schools. Yes, but it is not that their financial condition is not that good enough. Because of that reason, they are no rag pickers and they are searching gold in the garbage, the dump areas. So now what reply the little boy is giving? There is no school in my neighborhood. When they built one, I'll go. If I start a school, will you come? I ask, half joking. Yes, he says, smiling broadly. A few days later, I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? So now what happened over here? Sahib is telling that as he is a small child, no, he doesn't actually knew that his or their financial condition is not that good enough that they could be sent to school. But in a very innocent way, he is telling that as he is not having any sort of schools in the neighborhood, he is not able to go. And the writer is asking in a half joking way that if I'll open a school, will you come? And Sahib is affirmatively answering with a broad smile. And after a few days, Sahib is coming to the writer and he's asking that is your school ready? Can we come and can we study? And at that time, the writer is feeling really bad. Why? Because she was just mere joking, and that boy, Sahib Alam, took it seriously that yes, someone would be there to help. And then what reply the writer is giving? It takes longer to build a school, I say, embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. But promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. So, what is given over here? The writer is telling that it takes a long time duration to build a school. It is not that easy enough. But at that time, she felt really very embarrassed. Why? Because she made a promise which could not be fulfilled. But these type of people, the lower level or lower section people, get this sort of promises from government, from educated class of society people. We have done the second poetry also. Over there we have seen how the slum area students are being deprived from the basic concept of education. Yes, so the same scenario situation is over here also. After months of knowing him, I asked him his name. Sahib-e-Alam, he announces. He does not know what it means. If he knew its meaning, Lord of the universe, he would have a hard time believing it. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the street with his friends, an army of barefoot boys who appear like the morning bud and disappear at noon. Over the months, I have come to recognize each of them. So, now what happened? The writer as well as Sahib Alam used to meet each other for a longer time duration, but after a couple of months, the writer is asking the boy's name and he is telling very proudly Sahib Alam. Now, Sahib Alam means Lord of Universe. Now, when you take into consideration the name and the lifestyle which the boy is living, they are not similar and they are not comprehending to each other also. So the writer is feeling very bad for him, and Sahib had a tendency that he used to roam in the streets with his friend, with we can say barefoot boys, and in the morning they would come in the area till noon, they would stay over there and then they would disappear, and they would come for rag picking to collect the garbage. And till now the writer knows each and every child in it. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I ask one. My mother did not bring them down from the shelf. He answers simply. Now, how innocently the boy is replying. Now, the writer is asking one of the boys in the group that why aren't you wearing sleepers or chappals? And at that time, the boy is very, no, frankly, very innocently to be said. He is replying back and he is telling that his mother will not allow him to bring the chappals down from the shelf. Even if she did, he will throw them off, adds another, who is wearing shoes that did not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. I want shoes, says a third boy who has never owned a pair all his life. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities on village roads. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot is one explanation. I wonder. So, what happened over here? She was having a conversation with all the boys, and the another boy told that if the chappals are given to him, he will just throw them off. And that boy was wearing a pair of shoes, which were odd enough, means they were not similar and they were not matching to each other. And the another one said that he wanted shoes because in his life he has never owned any shoes, so he is trying to have one of it. And the writer is telling that it is not like so that the people cannot afford it, but they actually have a tradition to stay barefoot. Yes, and that is how now these people like to live. They are very much rigid and they are very much traditional in this thing. Over here the picture is given in front of you, and you can easily see that how the children are having rags in their hands. Yes, the bags which they are carrying, and they are barefoot. Yes, and they are moving all around in the city. I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. I remember a story a man from Udupi once told me. As a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest. He could stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited his town and the temple, which was now drowned in an air of desolation. In the backyard where lived the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, panting, and threw his school bag on a folding bed. Look at the boy, I remembered, the prayer another boy had made to the goddesses when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddesses had granted his prayer. Young boys like the son of the priest now wore shoes, but many other, like the rag pickers in my neighborhood, remained shoeless. So over here the writer is sharing one of the experience and what she has observed she wants to try to tell, and the author is remembering a man from Udupi who as a young boy would pass a temple where his father was a priest and he would pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later, the writer visited the town, and behind the temple, there was a house of a new priest. And the writer is noticing that the young boy of the priest was wearing shoes. The writer was reminded of the boy who prayed that he should never lose his shoes. The goddesses had granted his prayer, as most of the young boys in that place now had shoes to wear, but the rag pickers in her neighborhood still remained barefooted. My acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers led me to Simapuri, a place on a periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it, metaphorically. Those who live here are squatters who come from Bangladesh back in 1971. Sahib's family is among them. Simapuri was then a wilderness, it still is, but it is no longer empty. It in structures of mud with roof of tin and tarpaulin, devoid of sewage, drainage, or running water, live 10,000 rag pickers. They have lived here for more than 30 years without an identity, without permits, but with ration card they get their names on voters list and enable them to buy grains. Food is more important for survival than an identity. If at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields that gave us no grains, says a group of women in tattered saris. When I ask them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers. So, what happened? She went with these rag pickers in an area called Simapuri. In that area, basically, there used to live 10,000 rag pickers, and it was a sort of slum area. The people who migrated from Bangladesh in the year 1971 came down and settled over there. And the place over there was not that good enough. Moreover to that, they were devoid of the sewage, drainage, running water. They were having roof of tins. The structure of the house was of mud. And because of this thing, they have lived here more than 30 years without any sort of identity. But they have their names on the ration card so that they can vote and they can be unable to get the food grains. And for them, what is one of the most important requirement for the survival purpose, and that is to have a good meal, and that is food. At the end, they only care about is their families to feed and not to sleep hungry. Yes, that is their only aim. So it is better for them to leave those green fields and to stay in the city in these sort of slum areas. Why? Because when they are in village, they aren't having food to eat. Their survival is at a great risk. But when they come to the city area, at least they have a chance to prove themselves and to get work. And this was a reply given from a group of women. When I ask them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers, whenever they find food, they pitch their tents that becomes a transient home. Children grow up in them, becoming partners in survival. And survival in Simapuri means rag picking. Through the years, it has acquired a proportion of fine arts. Garbage to them is gold. It is their daily bread, a roof over their heads, even if it is a leaking roof. But for a child, it is even more. So, for their survival purpose, to have at least a good meal, they have landed up in the city areas. And now they do not have permanent home, they migrate, they live in this tent sort of houses, and for the survival purpose they also become the partners. And moreover to that, when it comes for survival in Simapuri, the only option which is left is of rag picking. And the people living over there, the community living over there, now have got a really good hold in rag picking. So for them now, garbage is considered as gold. And it has become their daily bread and roof over their heads. Although it may be that the roof is leaking, but at least they have one to have a shelter under them. And for children, it actually means more. I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note, Sahib says, his eyes lighting up. When you find a silver coin in in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scrounging, for there is a hope of finding more. It seems that for children, garbage has a meaning different from what it means to their parents. For children, it is wrapped in wonder. For the elders, it is a means of survival. So, what is given over here? Here, Sahib is telling that sometimes from that heap of garbage they find a rupee, a 1 rupee coin, or maybe a 5 rupee coin, and sometimes they would also get a 10 rupee note. And when Sahib was telling all these things, no, he was really very happy. It seems so that he is fetching gold out of the garbage. Now, for children, it is a way of fun, but for the elders, it is a means of survival. Children over here enjoy picking up the garbage. Why? Because they will get some money, no, from that garbage heap, and for the parents, it is a mean of survival. One winter morning, I see Sahib standing by the fenced gate of neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. I like the game, he hums, content to watch it standing behind the fence. I go inside when no one is around, he admits. The gatekeeper lets me use the swing. So, what is given over here? In one winter morning, Sahib was standing over there and he was continuously watching two young men dressed up in tennis attire. And then at that time, Anis is telling that he likes this game as he was standing behind the fence. And at that time, he is now admitting that when no one is around, the gatekeeper allows him to use the swing in the club area. Sahib too is wearing tennis shoes that look strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. Someone gave them to me, he says in a manner of an explanation. The fact that they are discarded shoes to some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because of a hole in one of them does not bother him. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoes with a hole is a dream come true. But the game he is watching so intently is out of his reach. So, Sahib e Alam was also wearing tennis shoes, but somehow it was not fitting the clothes which he was wearing. And in an explanation mannerism, he is trying to say that they are being given to him. Now, over here, the writer is putting up a condition that just imagine for a rich kid or for a rich child, this shoes might not be having any sort of importance. Why? Because in either of the shoes there was a small hole, but the child who has walked barefoot, who is not having any pair of shoes, will be having a great importance of getting these shoes with holes. Yes, he'll be having a really good opportunity to wear them and to get that identity. But still, as he was wearing a shorts, he was wearing a shirt, he was wearing tennis shoes, but it was not possible for him to understand the game which the club members were playing. This morning, Sahib is on his way to the milk booth. In his hand is a steel canister. I now work in a tea stall down the road, he says, pointing in the distance. I am paid 800 rupees and all my meals. Does he like the job? I ask. His face, I see, has lost a carefree look. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bags he would carry so lightly. Over his shoulder, the bag was his. The canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shop. Sahib is no longer his own master. So, at the end, what is happening? Then one morning, the writer is observing and seeing Sahib on his way to a milk booth, and he was carrying a steel canister over it. And he informed the writer that he had started working at a tea stall, and he was really very, happily saying that he was being paid 800 rupees and was given all his meal. However, when he was saying these words, he was not happy. His face had lost its carefree look. The steel canisters seems heavier than the plastic bag he carried while scourging the garbage. Sahib was no longer his own master but had to do as his owner told him to do. So now, with this responsibility of taking care of the family, that carefree look of Sahib Alam was gone, and now he had got the responsibility to take care of the family. So all of a sudden he has lost his childhood, and because of this the title is appropriate and is suffice. Lost spring, it means that the child has lost its innocence, adolescent age, and childhood, and now he has become a responsible man. So this is about the first story, which is written by Anis Jung. I hope, students, you have understood the story. If you still find any doubts or difficulties, you can comment down in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.